Chapter 1. The breakup before Christmas. Carley Bennet had always imagined breakups as loud, messy affairs. Tears, accusations, maybe even a dramatic exit involving a slammed door and a shattered vase. What she got instead was silence, a single nod, and then the sound of her boyfriend's boots on the hardwood floor as he walked out of her apartment like he was leaving a dentist appointment. She stood frozen in the kitchen, one hand still clutching the edge of the counter, staring at the door as if sheer willpower could make him come back and argue. Argue like a normal person. Argue like someone who cared. "Wait," she said finally, her voice cracking like thin ice. "That's it? You're just leaving?" He turned, calm as ever, his coat already zipped. "Carley, if you still don't know after a year and a half, then I'm just a placeholder. And I have better things to do than be someone else's stage prop." Stage prop. The words hit like a slap, though his tone was maddeningly gentle, like he was explaining a math problem to a child. He didn't even look angry, just done. Carley opened her mouth, ready to fire back something scathing, but all that came out was, "You're seriously breaking up with me because I didn't invite you to Christmas?" His expression didn't change. "No, I'm breaking up with you because you didn't want me there." And then he was gone. The door clicked shut, and the apartment felt cavernous, like all the oxygen had been sucked out. Carley stood there, heart pounding, cheeks burning, 1,000 retorts swirling in her head, none of them useful now. She wanted to scream, throw something, maybe text him a paragraph so blistering it would melt his phone. Instead, she grabbed her keys. The drive to her parents' house was a blur of brake lights and holiday decorations mocking her from every corner. Inflatable snowmen grinned from lawns. Strings of lights twinkled like smug little stars. Even the radio betrayed her, crooning about chestnuts roasting and lovers cuddling by firesides. Carley gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Stage prop," she muttered, the words tasting bitter. "Who even says that? What is this, Shakespeare?" She pictured him rehearsing that line in the mirror, all calm and noble. But she hated how reasonable he sounded. Reasonable was worse than angry. It made her feel like the villain in her own story. By the time she pulled into her parents' driveway, her indignation had crystallized into a battle plan. Storm in, vent about her ridiculous ex, and bask in the warm glow of parental sympathy. That was what parents were for, right? Comfort, validation, maybe a slice of pie. She stomped up the porch steps, flung open the door, and was immediately assaulted by the smell of cinnamon and pine. Her mother was in the kitchen, humming along to Bing Crosby, while her dad wrestled with a string of lights near the fireplace. "Mom, Dad," Carley announced, dramatic as a soap opera star. "You will not believe what just happened." Her mother glanced up, smiling. "Hi, honey. Oh, you look. He broke up with me." Carley cut in, tossing her coat onto a chair like it had personally betrayed her. "Right before Christmas. Because I didn't invite him here. Can you believe that?" Her dad straightened, blinking behind his glasses. "Well, did you want him here?" Carley gaped. "That's not the point." Her mom wiped her hands on a towel, her expression maddeningly calm. "Sweetheart, if you've been dating for over a year and a half and you still don't want him at Christmas, maybe he has a point." Carley stared at her like she'd grown antlers. "Excuse me?" Her dad shrugged, plugging in the lights. They flickered to life, casting a warm glow that felt anything but comforting. "One of these days, Carley, you're going to have to make a choice. You can't have everything, career, family, kids, without deciding what matters most." Carley's jaw dropped. This was not the script. They were supposed to say, "He's a jerk, you're better off without him. Let's eat cookies and watch Elf." Instead, they were siding with him. She threw up her hands. "Unbelievable. My own parents are team placeholder." Her mom chuckled softly. "We're team Carley. We just want you to be happy." Carley sank into a chair, the weight of their words pressing down like a snowdrift. Happy? What did that even mean anymore? She thought she was happy. Career on track, apartment in the city, boyfriend who didn't make her want to gouge her eyes out. But apparently that wasn't enough. Apparently happiness came with a deadline. She stared at the twinkling lights, her chest tight. Outside, snow began to fall in lazy spirals, blanketing the world in white. Inside, Carley felt anything but peaceful. Chapter 2. The parental reality check. Carley woke up the next morning in her childhood bedroom, staring at the faded posters on the wall like they were judging her life choices. A pop star from 2008 smiled down at her, frozen in eternal optimism. Carley groaned and pulled the quilt over her head. She hadn't planned to stay the night. She'd meant to vent, eat cookies, and drive back to her apartment where she could sulk in peace. But after her parents' little intervention, you can't have everything, Carley. She'd been too rattled to face the empty apartment. So here she was, 27 years old, hiding under a quilt like a teenager who'd just been dumped before prom. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Work emails, of course, because nothing says holiday spirit like subject lines screaming urgent in all caps. Carley ignored them and stared at the ceiling, replaying last night's conversation in her head. "One of these days, you're going to have to make a choice." Her dad's voice had been calm, almost gentle, but the words clung like burrs. "Choice. as if life were a menu and she had to pick one entree, career or family. No substitutions allowed. She swung her legs out of bed, determined to shake off the gloom. Downstairs, the house smelled like coffee and cinnamon rolls, her mother's way of bribing everyone into cheerfulness. Carley followed the scent to the kitchen, where her mom was humming and her dad was reading the paper like a Norman Rockwell painting come to life. "Morning," Carley muttered, pouring herself coffee. "Morning, sweetheart," her mom said brightly. "Sleep okay?" "Like a rock," Carley lied. "A very anxious rock." Her dad lowered the paper. "You know, Carley, we weren't trying to gang up on you last night." "Sure felt like it," she said, stabbing a cinnamon roll with unnecessary force. "I come here for comfort, and you two turn into the ghosts of Christmas reality." Her mom chuckled. "We just want you to think about what you really want." Carley rolled her eyes. "What I want is for everyone to stop acting like my life is a ticking clock." Her dad shrugged. "Time doesn't stop ticking just because you ignore it." Carley groaned. "Great. Now you sound like a motivational calendar." Before her mom could respond, the doorbell rang. Carley frowned. "Visitors at 9 a.m.? She padded to the door, expecting a neighbor or maybe a delivery. Instead, when she swung it open, the past stared back at her. "Carley Bennet?" The man on the porch grinned, snowflakes clinging to his dark hair. "Wow, you haven't changed a bit." Carley blinked, then blinked again, because standing there, looking annoyingly handsome in a navy coat and scarf, was Jake Turner, the boy who used to throw snowballs at her in 5th grade and steal her Lunchables in 7th. The boy who'd moved away after high school and apparently decided to return looking like a walking holiday movie cliché. "Jake." Her voice squeaked like a rusty hinge. "What are you, How?" "Back in town for Christmas," he said easily, his smile widening. "My parents roped me into helping with their charity event. Thought I'd stop by and say hi." Carley stared, brain short-circuiting. Of all the mornings for nostalgia to show up wearing cologne. Hi," she managed, gripping the doorframe like it might keep her upright. "You look different." He laughed, low and warm. "So do you. In a good way." Carley's mom appeared behind her, beaming like she'd orchestrated this moment. "Jake Turner. Oh, honey, look at you. Come in. Come in." Before Carley could protest, Jake was inside, shaking snow off his boots, filling the kitchen with easy charm. Her dad clapped him on the back like they were old pals. Carley stood there, clutching her coffee, wondering if the universe was mocking her. Yesterday, dumped. Today, ambushed by childhood crush turned Hallmark hero. Jake glanced at her, eyes crinkling at the corners. "So, Carley, still hate snowball fights?" Carley swallowed hard. "Depends. You still cheat." He grinned. "Always." And just like that, something shifted, tiny, imperceptible, but enough to make Carley's pulse trip over itself. She told herself it was nothing, just nostalgia, just coincidence. But as Jake settled at the table, laughing with her parents like he'd never left, Carley had the uneasy feeling that Christmas was about to get a lot more complicated. Chapter 3. The Unexpected Neighbor. Carley had always believed in the power of coffee to steady her nerves, but as Jake Turner sat across the kitchen table, laughing with her parents like he'd never left, she realized caffeine was no match for nostalgia, or for the way his smile seemed to light up the room like the Christmas tree in the corner. She busied herself with refilling her mug, pretending she wasn't hyper-aware of him. His easy posture, his dark hair still damp from snow, the faint scent of cedar and something warm she couldn't name. She hated that she noticed. She hated even more that she cared. "So," her dad said, folding his paper. "What brings you back to Mayville, Jake? Haven't seen you in years." Jake leaned back casual. "Parents guilt-tripped me into helping with their charity event. The Christmas market fundraiser? They're short on volunteers." Carley blinked. "You came back for a bake sale?" He grinned. "It's more than a bake sale. There's music, crafts, a tree lighting ceremony. Big deal around here." Carley snorted. "Right. The social event of the season." Jake's eyes twinkled. "Don't knock it till you've tried the peppermint fudge." Her mom clapped her hands. "Oh, Carley, you should go. It'll be fun." Carley opened her mouth to protest. She had work, deadlines, a mountain of emails, but her mom was already in full matchmaking mode, and Carley could practically hear the wedding bells ringing in her head. She shot Jake a look, silently warning him not to encourage this. He just smiled wider, like he could read her thoughts and found them amusing. "So," he said, turning back to her, "what about you? Still living in Chicago?" Carley nodded, sipping her coffee. "Yep, marketing firm. Long hours, lots of stress, but hey, great dental plan." Jake chuckled. "Sounds glamorous. About as glamorous as a bake sale." She shot back, and immediately regretted it when his grin deepened. Her mom bustled around, humming, clearly enjoying the banter. Carley wanted to roll her eyes, but the truth was, she felt lighter. For the first time since last night's breakup, the knot in her chest loosened a little, which was ridiculous. This was Jake Turner, the boy who once put a frog in her lunchbox. She should not be feeling anything except mild irritation. But then he stood, brushing snow from his coat, and said, "Hey, I'm staying next door for the holidays. My folks rented the old Miller place. If you need a break from cinnamon rolls and parental lectures, come by." Carley blinked. "You're my neighbor?" "Looks that way." His smile was easy, confident, like he knew this changed everything. "See you around, Carley." And then he was gone, leaving a swirl of cold air and a kitchen that suddenly felt too warm. Carley stared at the door, her mind spinning. Jake Turner back in town, living next door, looking like a walking Christmas card. This was not in her holiday plan. Her holiday plan involved sulking, binge-watching rom-coms, and avoiding emotional entanglements. Not whatever this was. Her mom's voice broke through her thoughts. "He's grown into such a handsome man, hasn't he?" Carley groaned. "Mom, what?" "I'm just saying." Carley grabbed another cinnamon roll, muttering under her breath. This is going to be a long Christmas. Chapter 4, Holiday Chaos and Career Calls. Carley had always prided herself on being able to juggle multiple things at once. Deadlines, client calls, social obligations, but Christmas at her parents' house was testing the limits of her multitasking skills. By noon, the kitchen looked like a gingerbread factory explosion. Her mom was humming carols at a decibel level that could wake the dead, and Carley was crouched in the corner with her laptop, trying to sound professional on a video call while a timer for sugar cookies beeped in the background. "Yes, I understand the client's concerns," she said, forcing a smile as her boss's face filled the screen. "We'll have the campaign revisions ready by—" "Carley," her mom called from the stove. "Do you want marshmallows in your cocoa?" Carley closed her eyes. "By Friday," she finished, voice tight. "Excuse me 1 second." She muted the call and hissed toward the kitchen. "Mom, please." Her mom waved cheerfully. "Marshmallows or no marshmallows?" Carley groaned. "Whatever. Surprise me." She unmuted, pasted on her corporate smile, and prayed her boss hadn't heard the marshmallow debate. This was supposed to be her holiday break, but the marketing world didn't care about festive cheer. Deadlines were deadlines, even if Santa himself was breathing down your neck. By the time the call ended, Carley's nerves were frayed. She shut the laptop and rubbed her temples, wondering if she could sneak outside for 5 minutes of peace. But before she could escape, the doorbell rang. Again. Her mom bustled to answer it, and Carley braced herself for another neighbor bearing fruitcake. Instead, she heard a familiar voice, warm and amused. "Hope I'm not interrupting." Carley froze. "Jake, of course." Because the universe had a twisted sense of humor. She turned slowly, and there he was, leaning against the doorframe like he owned the place, holding a box of ornaments and wearing that infuriatingly easy smile. Snowflakes clung to his coat, and his hair looked like it had been tousled by the wind, or maybe by fate, because apparently fate was working overtime to make him look good. "What are you doing here?" Carley asked, trying for casual and landing somewhere between startled and accusatory. "Mom sent me," he said, stepping inside. "She thought your folks could use extra hands with decorating, and I figured I'd check on my new neighbor." Carley narrowed her eyes. "I'm not your neighbor. I'm temporarily adjacent." Jake grinned. "Sounds neighborly enough." Her mom clapped her hands. "Oh, perfect timing. We were just about to do the tree." Carley groaned inwardly. She had work to finish, emails to send, a career teetering on the edge of chaos, and now Jake Turner was about to waltz into her holiday like some kind of charming distraction. Which, judging by the way her pulse jumped when he smiled at her, was exactly what he was. "Come on, Carley," her mom said, already pulling out boxes of ornaments. "Take a break. You've been glued to that computer all morning." Carley opened her mouth to protest, but Jake beat her to it. "She's right. You look like you could use some holiday spirit." Carley shot him a look. "And you look like you're enjoying this way too much." He laughed, low and warm. "Guilty." And just like that, she was roped into decorating the tree with him, standing shoulder to shoulder as they hung ornaments and traded sarcastic remarks. She told herself it was harmless, just a break from work, nothing more. But when his hand brushed hers as they reached for the same ornament, her breath caught, and she hated that he noticed. "Still hate snowball fights?" he murmured, eyes glinting. Carley swallowed hard. "Still cheat." "Always," he said, and smiled like he knew exactly what he was doing. Chapter 5. Snowstorm and Forced Proximity. The snow started as a whisper, soft flakes drifting lazily past the window while Carley typed furiously on her laptop, determined to finish her campaign revisions before dinner. She barely noticed at first, but by mid-afternoon, the whisper had turned into a roar. Wind howled against the house, rattling the windows, and the world outside disappeared behind a curtain of white. Her mom peeked into the living room, eyes wide. "Carley, honey, the weather report says the roads are closing. Blizzard warning." Carley glanced up, distracted. "Great, just what I needed." She was about to dive back into her work when the doorbell rang. Again. Carley groaned. If this was another neighbor with fruitcake, she was going to lose it. But when she opened the door, it wasn't fruitcake. It was Jake, of course, standing there with snow clinging to his coat, cheeks flushed from the cold, and that maddeningly calm smile like he wasn't aware the universe was conspiring against her sanity. "Hey," he said, brushing snow from his hair. Looks like I'm stuck. Carley blinked. Stuck. Roads are closed. Power might go out. My folks are at the market setting up for tomorrow, and I was supposed to meet them later, but he gestured to the swirling white chaos outside. Guess I'm stranded. Carley stared at him, heart thudding. So what? You're just going to camp out here? He grinned. Unless you want me to freeze to death on your porch. Her mom appeared behind her, already beaming. Oh, of course you'll stay. We've got plenty of food, and the guest room's ready. Carley opened her mouth to protest, but her mom was already ushering Jake inside. Chattering about cocoa and board games like this was the best thing that had ever happened. Carley shut the door, muttering under her breath. Perfect. Just perfect. By evening, the storm had swallowed the world whole. Snow piled against the windows, wind howled like a freight train, and the house glowed with the warm flicker of candles after the power flickered out. Carley sat cross-legged on the rug, laptop dead, phone useless, glaring at the Monopoly board her mom had set up like a peace offering. Jake lounged across from her, sleeves rolled up, looking infuriatingly comfortable for someone trapped by a blizzard. You're terrible at hiding your enthusiasm, he teased. Carley shot him a look. I had plans. Work plans. Now I'm stuck playing board games like a 12-year-old. He smirked. Could be worse. You could be stuck alone. She hated that he had a point, and she hated even more that, despite herself, she didn't mind the company. Not really. Not when he laughed like that, low and warm, like it belonged to another time, another version of her who wasn't drowning in deadlines and expectations. They played. They bickered. They laughed. Real laughter. The kind Carley hadn't felt in weeks. And somewhere between arguing over Park Place and sharing a blanket when the temperature dipped, something shifted. The air felt charged, like the storm outside had seeped into the room, crackling between them. At one point, Jake leaned in to move his piece, and Carley caught the faint scent of cedar and winter air. Her breath hitched. He noticed. She knew he did, because his eyes lingered on hers a beat too long, dark and steady, like he was seeing past every wall she'd built. Still hate snowball fights? He murmured, voice low. Carley swallowed hard. Depends. On what? She met his gaze, pulse racing. On whether you still cheat. His smile was slow, deliberate. Always. And just like that, the room felt smaller, warmer, dangerous in a way Carley hadn't expected. She told herself it was nothing, just nostalgia, just the storm. But deep down, she knew better. This wasn't nothing. This was the beginning of something she wasn't ready for, and maybe didn't want to stop. Chapter 6. The Christmas Market Confession. The storm had passed overnight, leaving the world blanketed in pristine white. Sunlight bounced off snowdrifts, turning the streets into a glittering postcard. Carley stood at the window, coffee in hand, watching plows crawl along the road like sluggish beetles. The silence after the blizzard felt almost sacred, until her mom burst in, humming like a woman possessed. Carley, the market's back on. They need volunteers to set up. Isn't that wonderful? Carley groaned. Define wonderful. Her mom ignored her and launched into a list of tasks involving garlands, cocoa stands, and something called a Santa selfie station. Carley tuned out until she heard the inevitable. Jake's already there helping. Of course he was, because fate had clearly decided to make him the centerpiece of her holiday. By noon, Carley found herself trudging through snow toward the town square, bundled in layers and muttering under her breath about how volunteering wasn't in her job description. The market was a riot of color, red and green banners fluttering, stalls lined with crafts and baked goods, the scent of cinnamon and pine thick in the air. Children darted past with sticky fingers and flushed cheeks, and somewhere, a brass band was warming up for carols. And then she saw him. Jake stood near the cocoa stand, laughing with a vendor, his breath curling in the cold like smoke. He wore a navy sweater under his coat, and Carley hated how good he looked against the backdrop of twinkling lights. She told herself to keep walking, to focus on the garland in her arms, but he spotted her instantly. Of course he did, and his smile hit like a snowball to the chest. Carley Bennet, he called, striding over. Look at you, embracing small-town charm. She lifted the garland like a shield. Don't start. He grinned. Need a hand? No, she said quickly, then winced when the garland slipped and nearly took out a display of peppermint fudge. Jake caught it effortlessly, his fingers brushing hers, and Carley felt that now familiar jolt, like static, sharp and warm. Relax, he said, steadying the garland. I'm not here to sabotage your decorating career. Carley rolled her eyes. Funny. They worked side by side, hanging garlands and stringing lights, their banter easy, almost dangerous in its comfort. Every laugh felt like a crack in the armor Carley had built around herself. And when Jake reached up to adjust a strand of lights, his sleeve brushing hers, she realized how close they were. Close enough to feel the heat of him despite the cold. Remember the winter carnival? He asked suddenly, voice low. Carley blinked. What? Senior year. You won that ridiculous stuffed penguin after beating me at ring toss. She laughed, surprised by the memory. You sulked for days. I didn't sulk, he said, grinning. I plotted revenge. Carley shook her head, smiling despite herself. "You're still competitive." "Always," he said, and for a moment, his gaze held hers, steady, unguarded, like he was about to say something that mattered. The noise of the market faded, replaced by the thud of Carley's heartbeat. She wanted to look away, to break the spell, but then Jake spoke, quiet enough that only she could hear. "You seem different," he said. "Not in a bad way. Just tired." Carley stiffened. "Wow, thanks." He smiled faintly. "I didn't mean it like that. You've always been the girl with a plan. The one who knew what she wanted. But now," he hesitated, searching her face. "Do you?" The question landed like a stone in her chest. Carley opened her mouth, ready with a deflection, but nothing came. Because the truth was, she didn't know. "Not anymore." "I should," she began, but her voice cracked, and Jake's expression softened, like he regretted asking. He reached out, fingers brushing her sleeve, warm even through the wool. "Forget it," he said gently. "Come on. Help me hang the last garland before your mom recruits us for caroling." Carley nodded, throat tight, and followed him, pretending her pulse wasn't racing, pretending his question hadn't cracked something open inside her. A truth she wasn't ready to face. Chapter 7. The X returns. Carley was halfway through arranging a display of poinsettias when she heard her name. Sharp, familiar, and entirely unwelcome. "Carley." She froze, fingers tightening around the ribbon in her hand. Slowly, she turned. And there he was, Daniel, her ex, standing in the middle of the Christmas market like a ghost conjured by bad timing, wearing that same calm expression that had haunted her since the breakup. "Daniel," she said, voice flat. "Wow, didn't expect to see you here." He smiled faintly, hands tucked into his coat pockets. "I was in town visiting family. Thought I'd check out the market." Of course he had, because the universe wasn't done messing with her yet. Before Carley could respond, Jake appeared at her side, carrying a box of ornaments. His easy grin faltered when he saw Daniel, and something flickered in his eyes, something sharp, protective. "Friend of yours?" Jake asked, tone casual but edged. Carley swallowed. "Ex." Daniel's brows lifted slightly, as if amused by the introduction. "Nice to meet you," he said to Jake, extending a hand. Jake shook it, firm and brief. "Likewise." The air between them crackled, and Carley felt like she'd stepped into a scene from a rom-com. Except this wasn't funny. This was awkward and tense and making her pulse race for all the wrong reasons. Daniel turned back to her. "You look good, Carley." She forced a smile. "Thanks. You too." He hesitated, then added, "I've been thinking about what I said. About us." Carley stiffened. "Daniel, I wasn't trying to hurt you," he said quietly. I needed to be honest. If you weren't sure after all that time, then maybe we weren't right for each other." Carley opened her mouth, ready to fire back something witty, something that would prove she was fine, but the words tangled in her throat. Because the truth was, he wasn't wrong. And that stung more than she wanted to admit. Jake shifted beside her, his presence solid, grounding. "Sounds like you two have some history," he said lightly, but his jaw was tight. Daniel glanced at him, then back at Carley. "I'll let you get back to whatever this is." His tone was neutral, but his eyes lingered a beat too long before he walked away, disappearing into the crowd like a chapter closing. Carley exhaled slowly, tension draining from her shoulders. She turned to find Jake watching her, expression unreadable. "You okay?" he asked. "Fine," she lied too quickly. Jake studied her for a moment, then said softly, "You don't have to be." Carley looked away, blinking against the sting in her eyes. "I just hate that he's right." Jake's voice was gentle, but steady. "About what?" "That I don't know what I want," she whispered, the admission slipping out before she could stop it. Jake's gaze held hers, warm and unwavering. "Maybe that's not a bad thing," he said. "Maybe it means you're ready to figure it out." Carley swallowed hard, her chest tight. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to believe that uncertainty wasn't failure, that maybe, just maybe, it was the start of something new. But then her mom called from across the square, waving like a woman on a mission. "Carley, Jake, we need you for the tree lighting." Carley laughed weakly, grateful for the interruption. "Saved by the bell." Jake smiled, but his eyes lingered on hers, and Carley felt the weight of his words settle deep inside her. Ready to figure it out. Maybe, if she was brave enough. Chapter 8. Family dinner disaster. Carley had survived client meltdowns, last-minute campaign changes, and a boss who thought urgent was a lifestyle, but nothing prepared her for the chaos of Christmas dinner at her parents' house. The dining room looked like a holiday catalog exploded, candles flickering, garlands draped across every surface, and a centerpiece so elaborate it could double as a wildlife habitat. She was adjusting silverware when her mom breezed in, cheeks flushed with excitement. "Carley, honey, I invited Jake to join us tonight." Carley froze, fork in hand. "You what?" Her mom beamed. "He's all alone next door. It's Christmas. We can't let him eat microwave lasagna." Carley opened her mouth to protest, but the doorbell rang, and there was Jake. looking infuriatingly handsome in a dark sweater, holding a bottle of wine like he belonged in a holiday commercial. Carley's pulse did a somersault. "Evening," he said, smiling that easy smile that made her knees feel unreliable. "Hope I'm not too early." "You're fine," Carley muttered, stepping aside. "Too fine," her brain added unhelpfully. They were halfway through small talk when the second blow landed. Another ring of the doorbell. Carley frowned, confused, until she opened the door and saw Daniel, her ex, standing there with a box of chocolates and that maddeningly calm expression. "Your mom invited me," he said, as if reading her mind. "She said it would be nice." Carley blinked, then turned slowly toward the kitchen, where her mother was humming like a woman who had just orchestrated the social experiment of the century. "Mom," Carley hissed, "why is Daniel here?" Her mom waved a hand. "Oh, honey, it's Christmas. The more, the merrier." Carley stared at her, silently questioning every life choice that had led to this moment. Dinner started civil enough. Roast turkey, mashed potatoes, polite conversation, but the tension simmered like gravy on the stove. Jake sat on Carley's left, Daniel on her right, and Carley felt like the rope in an emotional tug-of-war. "So, Jake," her dad said cheerfully, oblivious to the undercurrent, "what do you do these days?" "Construction management," Jake replied easily. "Mostly commercial projects. Keeps me busy." Daniel smiled faintly. "Big change from Mayville." Jake shrugged. "Sometimes you need a change." Carley stabbed a green bean, wishing she could crawl under the table. Her mom, bless her matchmaking heart, kept tossing conversational grenades. "Daniel, you're still in Chicago, right? Same company?" "Yes," Daniel said smoothly. "Consulting firm. Carley knows how demanding it is." Jake's brow lifted slightly. "Sounds intense." "It is," Daniel said, his tone just shy of smug. "But Carley thrives under pressure." Carley forced a laugh that sounded like a dying car engine. "Wow, look at that cranberry sauce." Her mom beamed. "Isn't it festive?" Carley wanted to fling it across the room. By dessert, the tension had thickened to the point where even the pie felt awkward. Jake was quiet, his jaw tight, while Daniel kept dropping subtle reminders of their shared history. Inside jokes, old memories, each one a tiny needle under Carley's skin. Finally, Jake excused himself to help clear plates, and Carley followed, desperate for air. In the kitchen, he set down a stack of dishes with a little more force than necessary. "Fun dinner," he said dryly. Carley winced. "I didn't know he was coming." Jake looked at her, eyes steady, voice low. "You still want him?" The question hit like a punch. Unexpected, sharp. Carley's breath caught. "No," she said quickly, too quickly. "I mean, I don't know." Jake nodded slowly, his expression unreadable. "Fair enough." He turned back to the sink, and Carley felt something inside her twist, because for the first time, she realized what she did know. The thought of Jake walking away made her stomach drop in a way Daniel never had. Chapter 9. The choice looms. Carley stared at her laptop screen, the glow harsh against the soft twinkle of Christmas lights. Her inbox was a battlefield, subject lines screaming urgent, deadlines stacked like dominoes ready to topple. And then came the email that made her stomach drop. "Client wants full campaign overhaul. Need your proposal by Christmas Eve." Christmas Eve. Less than 48 hours. Carley rubbed her temples, feeling the weight of every choice pressing down like snow on a sagging roof. She could do it, she always did. She could pull an all-nighter, crank out revisions, prove once again that she was the dependable one. The girl with a plan. The girl who never dropped the ball. But then her mom's laughter floated in from the living room, mingling with the sound of Jake's voice. Low, warm, steady. Carley froze, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Because suddenly, the thought of missing that laughter, that voice, felt unbearable. She pushed back from the desk, pacing the room like a caged animal. This was what her dad had warned her about, wasn't it? One of these days, you're gonna have to make a choice. Career, family, love. She'd spent years convincing herself she could have it all. But maybe that was a lie. Maybe the truth was simpler and harder. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jake. "Snow's perfect tonight. Want to take a walk?" Carley stared at the screen, heart thudding. She should say no. She should stay here, glued to her laptop, drowning in deadlines. But her fingers moved before her brain could stop them. 5 minutes. The night was crisp, the air sharp with the scent of pine and wood smoke. Snow crunched under their boots as they walked past houses glowing with Christmas lights, their breath curling like ghosts in the cold. For a while, they didn't speak. And then Jake said, quietly, "You've been somewhere else all day." Carley swallowed. "Work. Always work," he said, not accusing, just stating a fact. "Is it worth it?" She stopped, the question hitting harder than she expected. "What do you mean?" Jake turned to face her, his eyes steady, dark against the snow. "You're running yourself ragged for people who'll replace you in a heartbeat if you burn out. Meanwhile, life's happening, and you're missing it." Carley's throat tightened. "It's not that simple." "Maybe it is," he said softly. "Maybe it's about deciding what matters most." Carley looked away, blinking against the sting in her eyes. You sound like my dad. Jake smiled faintly. Smart man. She laughed weakly, then fell silent, staring at the snow glittering under the streetlights. I don't know how to choose, she whispered. If I slow down, I lose everything I've worked for. But if I keep going, I lose everything else. Jake stepped closer, his voice low, steady. Maybe you don't have to choose everything right now. Maybe you just have to choose tonight. Carley met his gaze, and the world seemed to narrow to that moment. The cold air, the quiet street, the warmth in his eyes. Her pulse raced, and for the first time in weeks, she felt something other than exhaustion. She felt alive. I should go, she said, but her voice was soft, uncertain. Jake's smile was slow, deliberate. Or you could stay. And Carley realized, with a jolt that stole her breath, that staying wasn't about the walk. It was about him, about the possibility of something real, something she hadn't let herself want in a long time. She didn't answer, not with words. She just stood there, snow falling like confetti around them, and let herself imagine what it would feel like to stop running, to choose differently, to choose him. Chapter 10. Christmas Eve Epiphany. The town square shimmered like a snow globe come to life. Strings of lights draped across lampposts, casting a golden glow on the fresh snow. The Christmas tree stood tall in the center, its branches heavy with ornaments, a star gleaming at the top like hope itself. Carley stood at the edge of the crowd, heart pounding, the weight of her laptop bag digging into her shoulder like a reminder of everything she was supposed to be doing. Her phone buzzed again. Another email, another demand. She didn't even look. Not tonight. Jake was somewhere near the cocoa stand, laughing with a group of kids as he helped them hang last-minute decorations. His breath curled in the cold, his smile easy, his presence steady in a way that made Carley ache, because she knew what she wanted, finally, painfully, undeniably. And it wasn't another campaign revision. It was this, him. The way he made her feel like the world wasn't just deadlines and expectations, like she could breathe. The brass band struck up Silent Night, and the crowd hushed as the mayor stepped forward to light the tree. Carley's mom waved from across the square, her face glowing with pride and joy, and Carley felt something inside her crack wide open. This was what she'd been missing. Not just family, not just love, but the courage to stop running long enough to see what mattered. The countdown began. Carley's pulse raced with every number. 7, 6, 5. She dropped her laptop bag onto the snow, the thud muffled but final. For 3, 2. She pushed through the crowd, her boots crunching, her breath sharp in the cold. 1. The tree blazed to life, 1,000 lights chasing away the darkness, and Carley found Jake just as the cheer erupted around them. He turned, surprise flickering across his face, and then his eyes softened when he saw her. Really saw her. Carley, he said, voice low, steady, like the storm outside couldn't touch this moment. You okay? She laughed, breathless, a little wild. No, she said honestly, but I think I'm done pretending I am. Jake's brow furrowed, concern shadowing his features. Talk to me. Carley swallowed hard, her throat tight. I've spent so long trying to be everything. Perfect job, perfect plan, perfect future. And I thought if I kept running, I'd get there. But all I've done is run past the things that matter. Jake's gaze held hers, unwavering. What matters? Carley's breath hitched. This, she whispered. You. For a heartbeat, the world went still. Just snow falling like confetti, lights blazing, and Jake looking at her like she was the only thing that mattered. Then he smiled, slow, warm, like sunrise breaking over snow, and stepped closer. You sure? He asked softly. Carley nodded, tears stinging her eyes. For the first time in a long time, yeah. Jake reached out, his hand brushing hers, and the touch was everything. Steady, grounding, real. Carley felt the weight of every choice she'd been afraid to make melt away like frost in sunlight. And when he kissed her, under the glow of the tree with carols rising and snow swirling, it wasn't a grand gesture. It wasn't a movie moment. It was simple, quiet, perfect. The kind of kiss that said home isn't a place, it's a person. Carley knew then. She wasn't done figuring things out, but she'd made one choice tonight. And it was enough. Chapter 11. The grand gesture. Carley had never been the grand gesture type. She was the spreadsheet type, the color-coded calendar type, the woman who scheduled spontaneity like a dentist appointment. But as Christmas Eve melted into night and the glow of the tree lingered in her mind, she knew one thing. If she didn't act now, she'd regret it. Jake had walked her home after the tree lighting, his hand warm in hers, his smile soft and steady. They hadn't talked much, just quiet laughter, shared glances, the kind of silence that felt like music. And then he'd said goodnight, his voice low, his eyes lingering like he wanted to say more but didn't. Carley had watched him walk away, snow crunching under his boots, and something inside her had screamed, don't let this be another almost. So now she stood in her childhood bedroom, heart pounding, staring at the blinking cursor on her laptop screen. The campaign overhaul email was still open, mocking her with its urgency. She closed it. For the first time in years, she closed it without finishing the work. And it felt terrifying. and exhilarating. She grabbed her coat, her boots, and, on impulse, the ridiculous stuffed penguin she'd won at the Winter Carnival senior year, the one Jake had teased her about for months. It had survived college dorms, city apartments, and 3 moves. Tonight, it was her message in a bottle. The Miller house glowed softly against the snow, wreaths on the windows, smoke curling from the chimney. Carley's breath fogged the air as she climbed the porch steps, clutching the penguin like a talisman. Her pulse hammered so hard she could feel it in her fingertips. She knocked. Once, twice. The door opened, and there he was, Jake, in a worn flannel shirt, his hair tousled, his expression startled and then warm in the space of a heartbeat. "Carley," he said, voice low. "Everything okay?" She laughed, breathless. "No, not even close." His brows lifted, concern flickering. "Talk to me." Carley held up the penguin, absurd and perfect. "Remember this?" Jake blinked, then chuckled, the sound rich and familiar. "How could I forget? You lorded that win over me for months." "I did," Carley said, smiling despite the nerves clawing at her. "Because it mattered. Because it was proof I could win something I wanted." Jake's smile softened. "And now," Carley swallowed hard, her throat tight. "Now I want this. You. And I'm done pretending I don't." The words hung in the cold air, fragile and fierce. Jake stared at her, his eyes dark and steady, and for a moment, Carley wondered if she'd gone too far, if she'd misread everything, if she'd made a fool of herself. Then he stepped forward, slow and deliberate, and took the penguin from her hands, setting it gently on the porch rail. His fingers brushed hers, warm even through the chill, and his smile was like sunrise breaking over snow. "Carley Bennet," he said softly, "you have no idea how long I've wanted to hear that." Her breath caught. "Then why didn't you?" "Because I wasn't sure you were ready," he said, his voice low, steady. "And I didn't want to be another placeholder." Carley laughed, shaky and real. "You're not." Jake's gaze held hers, unwavering. "Good, because I'm not going anywhere." And then he kissed her, slow, deep, certain, while snow fell like confetti around them and the world narrowed to this. 2 people on a porch, a ridiculous penguin watching like a silent witness, and a choice that felt like freedom. Chapter 12. Christmas morning resolution. Carley woke to the sound of laughter drifting up the stairs, mingling with the scent of cinnamon and coffee. For a moment, she lay still, blinking at the soft glow of morning light filtering through the curtains. Felt different, lighter, like the air itself had shifted overnight. She slipped out of bed, pulling on a sweater, and padded down the hall. The living room was a picture-perfect Christmas morning. Her parents in matching flannel, mugs of cocoa steaming on the coffee table, wrapping paper scattered like confetti. And there, sitting cross-legged on the rug with a bow stuck in his hair, was Jake. He looked up when she entered, his smile slow and warm, and Carley felt her heart do that ridiculous somersault again. Except this time it didn't scare her. Felt right. "Merry Christmas," he said, voice low, steady. Carley smiled back, her pulse humming like a carol. "Merry Christmas." Her mom bustled over, pressing a mug into Carley's hands. "Sit, honey. Jake was just telling us about the time you beat him at ring toss." Carley groaned. "You're never letting that go, are you?" Jake grinned. "Not a chance." They opened gifts, laughter spilling like sunlight, and for the first time in weeks, Carley didn't think about deadlines or emails or the weight of expectations. She thought about this warmth, family, the way Jake's hand brushed hers when he passed her a box wrapped in silver paper. Inside was a small wooden ornament, carved into the shape of a penguin. Carley laughed, tears stinging her eyes. "You didn't." Jake's smile softened. "Thought you could use a reminder." She held the ornament, her chest tight with something fierce and tender. "Thank you," she whispered. Later, when the chaos settled and her parents disappeared into the kitchen, Carley found Jake by the window, watching snow fall in lazy spirals. She stepped beside him, her heart steady now, her voice sure. "I told my boss I'm taking the rest of the week off," she said. Jake turned, brows lifting. "Really?" Carley nodded. "Really. I'm done running past everything that matters." His gaze held hers, warm and unwavering. "So what matters?" Carley smiled, slow and certain. "This. You. Us." Jake's breath hitched, and then he pulled her close, his arms strong and sure, and kissed her like the world outside didn't exist. And Carley knew this wasn't a placeholder. This was the start of something real. Chapter 13. Epilogue. New Year, new beginnings. The city skyline glittered against the winter night, 1,000 lights winking like promises. Carley stood on her apartment balcony, wrapped in a wool coat, the hum of traffic below mingling with distant bursts of laughter from New Year's parties. Inside, her laptop sat closed on the coffee table, a silent testament to the choice she'd made and the balance she was learning to keep. She sipped champagne, smiling as her phone buzzed with a message. "Jake, countdown starts in 5. You ready?" Carley typed back, fingers warm despite the chill. "Carley, always. But don't cheat this time." His reply came with a winking emoji, and Carley laughed, the sound light and easy. In a few minutes, she'd head downstairs, where Jake was waiting with takeout and a bottle of sparkling cider, because they decided fancy parties weren't their style. They'd decided a lot of things together in the past week. Small things, big things, things that mattered. She glanced at the calendar pinned to the wall. January stretched ahead, blank squares waiting to be filled. For once, the sight didn't make her anxious. It felt like possibility, like freedom. Her career was still there, emails, deadlines, the hum of ambition, but it no longer owned her. She'd set boundaries, drawn lines, and discovered that saying no didn't mean failure. It meant space, for family, for laughter, for love that didn't feel like a placeholder. Carley turned back to the city, the cold biting her cheeks, and thought about the girl she'd been a month ago, the one who believed happiness came with a checklist. That girl was gone, melted away like snow under sunlight. In her place stood someone braver, someone who understood that life wasn't about having everything. It was about choosing what mattered most. Her phone buzzed again. "Jake, 1 minute. Don't make me start without you." Carley grinned, grabbed her coat, and headed for the door. Outside, fireworks bloomed against the night sky, bright and fleeting, like the year slipping away. And as she stepped into the elevator, heart steady, pulse humming, she whispered to herself, "Here's to new beginnings. The END."